Well, the latest polling numbers from Data for Progress show a tight recall election for California Governor Gavin Newsom, with voters in favor of keeping the governor at 48.8% and those in favor of a removal and a recall election at 47.6%. Some Democrats say the tight margins spell trouble for Newsom, especially without Trump to motivate opposition to the GOP. And they could be right. Newsom's GOP opponent, Larry Elder, has become a front runner in the recall election. Meanwhile, California lawmakers have indefinitely postponed an oversight hearing intended to look into Governor Newsom's response to the devastating wildfires in California. This change puts the hearing after voters decide whether to recall the governor. And here I am sitting in California, so this is a recall election that I'm particularly, I'm participating in. The Democrats have painted this as, at first they were trying to say, oh, this is a QAnon conspiracy that are going after Newsom. But I can tell you, many of us who typically vote blue are wanting to recall Newsom. So these numbers are very, very tight. But, I'm interested in hearing what you think of this, Ryan.
I feel like if the Republicans had put up a non-crazy candidate, they might be able to have just already put this away by now. The fact that he's still hanging in is almost a bit surprising, and obviously the state is extremely Democratic, and people are watching very closely how many Democratic ballots versus Republican ballots are coming in. But as you said, a lot of those Democrats are going to be voting against Newsom. Democrats are trying to do the fear mongering of there's plenty to not like about Elder. You can just Google some of those stories. Good Lord. But because Democrats have this 2/3 majority in the legislature, it makes it harder to deliver that message, so it would require the legislature to actually govern it. So the governor himself wouldn't have wouldn't have as much power as he would have in a state that didn't have a veto-proof Democratic supermajority, which could even pass a law that says that if a senator from California happened to pass away, that the legislature would appoint, or the governor would have to appoint someone from a list the legislature sent. So that all of that, I think, blunts people's fears of Elder as governor. But on the other hand, the numbers for Newsom are interesting. This looks like it could go either way.
Well, to me, this is a huge missed opportunity by Republicans, though. All they needed to do was run a moderate who was going to focus on jobs and the fact that people are fleeing California left and right to Texas and other parts of the country, and to say we're going to enforce smart COVID mitigation tactics, but we're not going to be enforcing lockdowns. And they could have done much better. But this sort of all over the place, Caitlyn Jenner's in, she's actually kind of not. Then you've got Larry Elder, who I think is seen as very extreme by some. Again, just a moderate, smart, business-minded Republican should have been able to beat Newsom. And these numbers are actually much closer than I would have expected for a governor that's just disastrously unpopular.
And it's really interesting. The ballot is huge. I mean, you should see this thing. It is 2 pages long. It's got to have, I would say, the first question, of course, is, do you want to recall Gavin Newsom? And you put yes or no. And then if you say, yes, I want to recall him, then you have a choice between like 4 dozen different names. And Larry Elder is buried in there. And you've got Caitlyn Jenner at the very back end of it on the flip side of the ballot. And, it's just a ton of names. It's really kind of, so really the way it works is you just vote, and then whoever gets the most out of that apparently ends up being the next governor of California. But I have to say, they are running ads like Larry Elder, he's pro-life. But those of us who are pro-choice aren't afraid of that. I mean, even Larry Elder has come out and said, I can't do anything about that anyway as governor. He's like, who cares?
How clear is the ballot? Because what my understanding is that even if you vote no, say, I want to keep Gavin Newsom in, you're still allowed to vote then for a replacement just in case he does get recalled. Like it's not only the people who voted for the recall who get to vote for a candidate. Is the ballot clear about that? Because that's kind of counterintuitive.
That's interesting because I didn't even know that. I guess I haven't really read it.
Because it's not very clear, yeah.
Yeah. And there's other weird things going on with this ballot that, I could bring up, like the envelope. Have you guys seen the envelope and how it has a hole in it? So there's a hole in the envelope. There's 2 holes, and they haven't really explained why there's these 2 holes in the envelope. But when you put your ballot in, you can actually see whether or not the ballot has yes or no for recall. So,
Wow.
that's a really sketchy, and apparently these holes have been there forever, but they spaced the ballot in a certain way. I mean, it's just, there's a lot of weird stuff going on there, but, Gavin Newsom is, for us Californians, he's been fair. He's just more of the same and disastrous, and he's shut down the state. And, even beyond when Fauci was saying in May of 2020, we can't let these lockdowns go on forever. They're going to be disastrous. We had local officials and Gavin Newsom here in California still going beyond even what Fauci was saying at the federal level. And so, this has been, plus we've got crazy homelessness. We have skyrocketing housing prices. You can't buy a house here, even if you're upper middle class. It's very, very difficult to do. And then you've got Newsom dining with lobbyists at French Laundry, and then putting his kids, pulling them out of school and putting them in private school when he shuts down all the other schools. I mean, it's the hypocrisy and just the Gavin Newsom just sort of, even for those of us who don't vote Republican, look at Newsom and say, yeah, but this guy's just reeking of establishment and privilege.
I mean, he looks like the stereotypical politician that you would not like. Too groomed, too polished, maybe like a Batman villain or something. But no, I'm curious to see where things come down on the race. And that's very interesting what you had said, Kim, about the envelopes, because we all know coming out of the 2020 election, there is massive voter distrust in the voting systems that we have in place. And I do worry about anything like that could look like an irregularity, or it could look like you can't trust your ballot, whether that would depress turnout or whether it would depress people, in fact, doing the mail-in voting. So hopefully that's not the case.
Well, I will say that in the Democratic primary, they did not count my vote. And there was a bunch of us where they threw out our ballots here in California. So they do a lot of stuff here that is very concerning for us voters. And, my vote didn't count when I voted for Bernie Sanders in the primary. It got thrown away. They gave me the wrong ballot and they didn't correct it.
Have you turned in your ballot for this one, or do you still have it?
Not yet. I still have it.
Can you bring it tomorrow so we can take a look at it? Cool.
Yeah, I can show you the holes and how this whole thing works. It's really bizarre. I mean, you could shake it and then see how the person voted. It's like, how did this happen?
Right, love it. Yeah. Let's take a look at that tomorrow. We'll also be joined tomorrow by Team Rising. We'll break down all of tomorrow's top stories.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss a video.
See you tomorrow.